Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. It's just gone 14 after 9 o'clock, and we are now going to be joined by Imtiaz Syed. He's the chairperson of eThekwini Secure, and he is a weekly guest on the show every Thursday morning. I'm sure I'm correct, Imtiaz. You are on the show every Thursday morning with my colleague.
Absolutely.
Okay, nice to be talking with you once again. We spoke a long, long time ago, and you do the Crime Talk weekly edition with obviously Inayat Wadi. He and I swapped yesterday and today, so that is the reason why I'm here today.
Okay.
You know what worries me about the fact that we talk with you week in and week out is that
Yeah.
kind of suggestive of the worrying crime rates in our country?
You know, the thing about it, Julie, is that the crime in its true form is so vast. And no matter what we do and no matter how much we speak about it, we can never ever do justice to informing people and bringing out the plight of victims of crime. And I think most of us just regard it as, murder and robbery and hijacking. But when we come down to the true form of it and you go down to its bottom level where socioeconomic issues and all of that cause people to start causing crime, you understand the real impact of how our society is moving and how we're moving forward as a country, and whether in fact we should be or we would be moving towards a better space or not. And those are dictative of what we see in the environment and how we look at things from the onset.
Very sadly, recently, in one of my WhatsApp groups, I picked up that a young lady, I think she was a teacher, was a victim of a home invasion a little while ago from
Correct.
KZN. And
Yes.
sadly, she passed away.
She passed
Do
on.
you, yes,
Correct.
and that was
We,
very,
we
very. Carry on, Imtiaz.
So we actually attended that scene, and it was quite horrific. There were armed men that walked into the house, and there was obviously an exchange of gunfire. And obviously, the teacher had been caught in that crossfire, and ultimately she ended up passing away. And that's what has happened. And we're seeing more and more in our climate as communities start fighting back. Things are getting more and more violent in nature, where a lot of people are losing their lives. I mean, even on our freeways at the moment, if you're getting stuck on the freeway, there's quite a likelihood of you actually getting robbed and mugged. And when you look at it 5 years back and you come into the current climate, you'd see that it wasn't as bad then. And why is it that we getting to this situation now? And what is the trajectory of crime? And how are we looking at it? And what are we doing to actually bring change to that?
Recently, as well, there were two other families, Muslim families in your part of the world, that were also victims of home invasions. And that's indicative of what's happening all around the country.
Yes.
We keep going down to what's happening on the ground, and we are aware of the fact that this is this is directly due to the fact that we have so very many disillusioned, unemployed young people. But what worries me is, yes, I can understand the robberies, but why injure people and kill people in the process? What is going on here that these young people are very desperate, possibly to put food on the table, but why do they maim, injure, and kill when they do these home invasions or hijackings or whatever it might be?
When it comes down to actually discussing are these crimes so heinous, ultimately it becomes a response of an action. So when criminals come into your home, they're not really or aren't actually coming out to be violent, but ultimately the situation leads to where they either interrupted or they're unsure of themselves, and through that agitation, things happen. And it's in that flight or that flight mode that they get into these situations and start shooting and firing. And whenever you look at the video footage, you'll see that these men aren't really trained professionals per se with firearms that come from backgrounds like that. They're just shooting willy-nilly at anything that's posing a threat to them. And that is something that we all need to be aware of, and how to take cover in these situations. Now, as much as we might speak about, empowering people, making them understand what to do, the do's and don'ts, and all of those things, we must remember that not everybody is inclined to go for these trainings. Not everybody is inclined to understand what happens. And obviously, when you're in the situation, adrenaline kicks in, and you get excited and you start panicking. So ultimately, these things cannot be preemptive or predictive about how we respond and how we react. Yes, safety measures and precautionary measures can be put in place. Yes, 100%. However, being said, every scenario and every scene is absolutely different from each other.
My final question for this morning, as you do know, we're running late with the show. It was explained to you by the controller. Normally, this time of year, we know that the Durban beaches and Durban as a whole is absolutely teeming with people. I mean, I've been there a couple of times over this period. In terms of crime, we're not even going to talk about the stinky situation of your beaches, because I'm going to cover that in my next interview with Wayne Duvenage. But do you think that that situation has kept the visitors away? But that doesn't mean you don't still have crowds, in Durban and all the main beach areas and all the main tourist attraction areas.
Yeah. The thing about tourist attractions and especially late night venues, there is a great move towards criminal activity around when you come out of these these venues. People tend to come up to you and start acting like they know you, and then they rob you. That's happening more or less in the Florida Road area and more of those areas. But when you're speaking about the promenade itself, and remember, when I say the promenade, I mean actually the beach promenade, not the 2 or 3 streets beyond that. Once you venture into those areas, you're going into a bit of a no-go area along the Durban beachfront. But on the promenade, it's pretty safe. There's Metro Police out there. There's SAPS out there. You can walk at any point. And all of that is actually not too bad, if you know what I mean.
Okay, let's leave it there. Imtiaz, thank you again for chatting with us this morning. Imtiaz Syed is the chairperson of eThekwini Secure. He talks to us every Thursday morning here on Salam Media. Thank you once again for your input. Go well. Stay safe this season, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It is exactly 9:21 a.m. News and views on Salam Media. Standing by to talk to us is Wayne Duvenage. He is a civil activist. He's with our town. We're going to be looking still on the issue around KZN tourism and business, how it's being impacted by the latest stink. So do stay with us.